talk a lot about light, don't we? We talk about exposure, hard, soft, temperature of light, color of light, direction of light, quality of light. But what about the texture of the light? Yeah, I'm going to show you a quick trick you can throw in there to do some really weird looking shots if you want, and how not to get stuck in a rabbit hole of it never working for you. Stick around, we got a lot to talk about. Hey, what's going on everyone? My name is Seth Miranda. I'm here for Professional Photographers of America, and we're going to get into basically using stencils for our light. They're called cookies, but what if you want to project shadows of a shape, a certain style of looking light, or something that just doesn't look like clean light and you just need something that's got a little more organic shadow going on from a tree? Whatever you want, it's your world. I'm just going to show you guys how to get that look without needing special attachments for your light, like a focusing spotlight. I got my girl Ashley with me today. Come to me. Activate. That's how you activate your model, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. Ashley's in all white, and she's against a white wall. Why? Because I'm going to be projecting shadows. Why would I have her in a dark clothing or put her on a dark wall? This is just an example type setup. This isn't going to be like a finished type shot, but I think a lot of you get into a little bit of a trap when you're trying to project something like lace. You know, you shoot your light through a piece of lace, and for some reason, you don't see the lace as shadows. Why is that? Or some people actually come up to me and go, how come the grids don't project a shadow? It has a lot to do with the type of light, distance of light, and what that light's actually doing when it's expelling from that head, hitting whatever we want, and creating the light that we're trying to create. So what is going on here? Well, the first thing I want to do is figure out a stencil, right? Figure out a cookie, something that goes between Ashley and my light so that I get not a consistent clean light. Let's first put a light on her. So I'm going to go real simple here, and I'm going to use a Profoto A10 speed light. And this is basically one of the best case scenarios, right? Because one of the characteristics of the light you want to use is hard. You want a hard light, not a diffused light. You got to think of light like water. If it goes through a diffuser, it scatters. It's like a mist. If it mists, it's going to go around whatever you put in between your subject and your light, and then you're not going to get definitive lines of shadow, which is what you're going for. You know how you use a hard light and you get that hard nose shadow? Think of it the same way, but instead of it making her nose into a sundial, we're projecting those shadows on her. So hard light. The other thing you're going to want is a tight beam angle, something that you can dial down. Instead of it spreading out, you want it going straight and small right into just the cookie instead of around the cookie. I'm going to call it a stencil because I grew up calling it a stencil, but the industry term is cookie. Just lay off me. And you're going to want to figure out what light source you have that would be optimal for this. The reason a speed light is so optimal is most of them, if not all of them in this era, can focus. You can actually tighten down that beam. But we are lucky enough to have accessories for these now, and you can just get a grid, slap it on there. I have a stacked 20 degree and 10 degree, making a very tight grid on her. Let's shoot it without the grid, put the grid on, and then see what we get, and then let's try to make a stencil or a cookie happen by projecting some texture onto Ashley. So I'm going to take this light, I'm going to dial it, so I'm going to focus that head down, right? Nice tight beam, got the grids on there, and if you have a modeling light, this is ideal, right? This is where you can actually aim your light where you want it. Let's shoot it without the grid first really quick. Wow, look at that, just like whoosh. Floods of light. I'm going to shoot at ISO 100, 200th of a second, my fastest shutter speed before I go into high speed sync. And I'm going to shoot at f4 because why not? All right, let's take a look at Ashley. I got her right here and bing. Okay, so we've got a pretty hard light going on here, and look at all that texture we're getting, but that's good. We're going to want texture from our stencil, or gobo, which actually means go between the light source and our subject. All those focusing spotlights you're seeing out there, all those stencils you can buy for it, those are called gobos for that reason. They're between the light and where it's projecting to. So let's get ourselves the grids that I just had and see if we can limit this light. And I think already you can kind of get a sense of that happening. Right now we've got a hard light on our girl, and that background went way darker, right? Now I'm hitting her with a wall of light, and she's a tough model, she can take it. She's also got a lot of white on against a white background, so it's really more pronounced, but you can already see how much we're limiting that light wrapping past Ashley onto the wall. Well, if I put something here to make a stencil, like, I don't know, oh, how convenient. Look at this, guys. I found this art paper at an art store, and it is black, which is opaque, and it's got holes in it. So we're gonna get a pattern. I'm not saying it's gonna be pretty. I'm just trying to give you guys literal examples of what's happening here. But if I do this, and I just have the same distance I've been working with, we're gonna run into a not such a good situation here. Let's take a look. It's there, but it's not pronounced. It's not, so if I had something that was more literal, like I was looking for like a pattern from a lace or something like that to show up, it's not really there. However, this is the critical tip. It's about distance. What we want is our cookie or stencil as close to our subject as we can, and I'm gonna pull back my light a reasonable distance, if not as far as I can, while it's still covering the stencil itself, not going around it or past it. And what that's doing is creating harder light source, right? It's actually becoming smaller relative to my subject. And as it gets harder, it gets more definitive, more defined, more structure, right? So let's take a look at this now. Let's turn towards this because I already know it's gonna go pretty shadowed out. Look at that, massive difference, right? Huge. Now, you're gonna say, but I see more of her on the first shot. Cool. If that's what you want, you know how to get there. Instead of having the light backed up too much, get it closer, right? You might say, well, I want less definitive edges to my shadows. You can see here on Ashley's cheek right here, that it's got a gradation to it in that first shot where the light was close to the cookie. But here, look how more definitive they are. That's happening because we're creating a harder light. It's cutting that light. It's getting cut, I'm sorry, the light is getting cut up by that stencil to create that shape. Now that you know what's causing that, you can dial this in how you want by the distance of that light to your stencil. And you can keep playing these games all you want. Now you're gonna say, but Seth, you know, maybe I don't want something like that. And I saw this cool thing and maybe, how can I make it work? Well, how do I know it's gonna project a shadow? Well, this I actually shined a flashlight through it at the art store and checked out how it was gonna give me some sort of idea of a shadow. However, I also saw something else that you probably would have gone, this is gonna work amazing. If I walk out this stencil, I keep calling them stencils, and someone in that comment section is like, it's called a cookie, you mook. I'm like, I know, but I like calling them stencils because to me, that makes more sense to people. I found this, which is clearly basically a diffusion gel, but with these actual pieces of yarn glued to it that are opaque. And you're gonna think, well, would I get a bunch of circles? I don't know. I think we can figure out what's gonna happen here, knowing what we know now, where we don't want diffused light and we don't want soft light. If my light is hitting this substrate, the substrate becomes my light source. Because it's a diffusion, it's gonna wrap around those circles and it's not really gonna show up too much. But am I right? Yeah, I am. We do have a little bit of a fighting chance because we minimized our beam angle and focused that light. It's not going to be a clean looking light, but if you wanna see those circles, I got bad news for you. Turn towards this for me, yeah. What do you know? It's almost like a diffusion. Here's our original cookie. Here's our cookie exaggerated the way we want it to really be pronounced. And then that is this diffusion gel in the position of the super exaggerated shadows, that texture. How come it didn't show up? Because it's diffused, it's not hard enough. It's literally hitting the substrate, exploding, dispersing like sprayed water, scattering around those circles, and you're not gonna get a pronounced circle. So you might think that something might project your shadows or the text that you want, but it might not. And now you have an idea of what would and what wouldn't, even though you're thinking like, that would be cool. Yeah, it might be cool in your hand, but think how light works because that's what you're capturing, right? Let's take this a little step further. Why? Well, because I gotta really milk this video and stretch it out a little longer for you guys, okay? So what I'm gonna do is walk this one out. Actually, let's leave this one in, why not? So now I already have like an automatic diffusion gel here because it's here, why not? But what about that background? Look how even it is after that. Well, what do you know? Look how convenient, guys. Oh, look, another cookie. But I put a bunch of gels on it, so what's that gonna do? Well, anywhere there is not shadow, there is light. And wherever there is light, there's gonna be a color. It's gonna give me a bit of a stained glass look. Let's walk this in here. The problem I'm gonna run into here now is I'm going to need another light source, right? I'm gonna need something that goes through this to project on the background. So right now, I have basically a wall of stencils. I got this diffusion gel with the circles, which it's diffused, but it's a little not clean. And I've got this stencil right here with a bunch of gels on it that'll rake across this white wall. And I don't know what kind of color tone we're gonna get, but you got a lot of colors going on, so we'll figure it out, right? And to make this light up, I'm gonna pull another light. But we already know that we need a light source that's hard and has a tight beam angle. Well, what do you know? So convenient, guys. Whoa, look what I found. I just found this walking around. Look at this. ProPhoto B10X Plus. It's a studio light. It's not a speed light, right? I'm just doing this to show you you don't need to have small lights to pull this off. However, I do have a 5-degree grid on here. I mean, you can actually see how tight that beam angle is. Well, I'm gonna snap it in here. I'm gonna turn this light on. And if you're having trouble seeing what's going on with the actual projected texture, turn on the modeling light. Turn down the ambient lights and really aim it where you want. That's what the modeling lights are for, to give you an idea where your lights are going and what they're doing. So I'm gonna back this up to a similar distance that my speed light is at. And we're gonna just hope this works out so I don't look stupid. Let's take a shot. First thing I'm gonna do is a shot without the light on Ashley and just the background. Let's see what this looks like, guys. Okay, turn that light off, turn that background light on. Let's see what we get. Whoa. But look, we can actually see that our stencil is kind of not being covered, right? We're getting light all over that background, but it's going past this stencil. But there is something happening there. We are seeing the shadow pattern, right? So I can just adjust this a little bit, make it a little cleaner, and make sure that the beam isn't going completely around that stencil. A little bit cleaner. Take another shot, then we'll add in our key light because we're good, you know. Bada bing. Nice. Mixed color, which totally goes with Ashley's color aesthetic with her hair and everything like that. Let's go back to our C. Let's see what we get. I'm going to turn off the B group and just check on this light. Okay, now let's mix it together, right? All right, and actually, I'm going to ask Ashley to look a little more towards this paper. Why? Well, we got a shadow casting happening, so we're going to give her best bet. Roll your eyes to me. Tilt your head a little bit. Chin down slight. Yeah, beautiful. And what do you know? You've got what we call a stained glass background. It's not just a straight up color block or just a gradated background. We have something else going on there. You can use whatever gels you want. You can get more prominent shadows back there if you want. And how do we do that? By backing that light up even more and more and more if we want. In fact, let's do one final shot where we back it up a little bit more, try to get some more prominent shadows. And then you guys can be like, we get it, I know, but let's just do this. We're in it, she's here, you know. Once I get Ashley here, she's like, oh boy, we're gonna be doing this for a while, huh? Like, yep, yes we are. Let's do this one more time. Bada bing, beautiful. And now we have more definitive shadows on that back corner. And notice how the other gel started coming into play because we backed up that light. Changes the spread of the light that's hitting those gels. So you can play a lot of games, but I think the key takeaway here is it's about distance of light to that stencil and distance of that stencil to whatever you're projecting it to. You want it closer to the subject and farther from the light if you want to have prominent shadows. Hope that makes sense for you guys. Not bad, huh? Yeah, all right. She's riveted, look at her. Listen, I hope this is helpful. Let me know anything down below if you have any questions. I'll do my best to answer them for you. Don't forget to like and hit subscribe to this channel. There are amazing photographers. It's a free resource for you guys. Everything from business, technique, and everything in between. And there's endless uploads happening here. So go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified when they are posted. And my name's Seth Miranda. You can follow me at Last X Witness on all social. And hopefully I will see you next time, maybe at Imaging USA. Later, guys. Woo. Bam. That's how you deactivate.